Good morning. Good morning, doom scrollers. I've had my customary phlegm inducer, the coffee, this morning. It's a cold, bracing little Perth morning. It's windy and it's quite noisy. And today is day 13 for me of this 20-day live experiment that I'm doing, which was about finding voice. And if you're interested what finding voice means, it's quite a wonderful journey that I've been through up until now. And interestingly, one of the things that I study quite deeply from a very serious kind of hermetic or Platonist perspective is tarot. I study tarot, this bad boy. And the 13th card is death. It represents these periods of transition and ending. And I just read a little quote of what I had written. And it says, so you can find this on one of my other Substacks. It's called Hermetica Reiterated. And I did a deep analysis on every single one of the 22 major arcana tarot cards. And it says, just as existence is a process, not a fixed state, so too death is a process, not a verdict. And underneath that, I included a quote from Goethe, which says, death is a commingling of eternity with time. Now, I bring this up because it's kind of topical to what happened in the astrological context yesterday. And just like tarot, astrology is something that I'm a student of, but it's not that I believe in anything literal or anything so silly as what you find in magazine astrology. And at this moment in time, that system of understanding our relationship with the cosmos and with time and with consciousness is explaining that we're looking at a moment of the death of our ideals, the death of solar figures, the death of solar fathers. The Pope just died recently. Excuse me. And a lot of people will maybe be confronting, as I am, this ending of certain things to make way for something else, you know. And yesterday, right in the middle of that moment, I actually recorded day 12, which was for me a very, very flat moment in this experiment. My wife and I had a squabble about something which was important and necessary but difficult. It's just a difficult moment, yeah. And one of my best friends is going through a kind of psychological slump. And it was so interesting that I wrote yesterday on my main Substack, this one that you're hopefully all following proudly, this idea of having to live in two worlds and try to be coherent across both. Now, for me, that's a very mystical reality. And then the reality of my ordinary life, which is, there's nothing ordinary about it, but it's the more ordinary life, the life of bills and figuring out the eternal question of what to make for dinner, getting Maya in and out of the bath, that sort of life. And how difficult that transition can be for all of us. And there's a lot of us that are listening here that live some sort of a corporate life. And you know that in that context, you have to be a kind of different version of yourself. And it's not that you're being inauthentic, but you have to adapt and fit into that. And somebody asked me a question yesterday, and they said, yeah, but why can't you just be yourself? Why do you have to wear a mask? The thing is, it's not to hide your authentic self. It's to protect them from your truth. I can't transition away from my work talking about hermetics and all this high-minded stuff and then get involved with my kid. I've got to be at the level of my wife and my kid when I make that transition. And everybody has this experience. So if that difficulty of transition or holding your own authentic truth across two versions of yourself interests you, I highly, highly recommend having a read of the part 1 of the 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 article or the essay that I wrote yesterday. It's called "Living Across Two Worlds." So, if you download this app, the Substack app, you don't just get the reminders or the mailers in your inbox. You can actually open it up like a social media application, although it's much cleaner than most social media applications. And you can listen to my articles like a podcast. It's not my voice reading it, but it's a pretty damn good rendition. Now, yesterday, this is what I want to talk about today, because this this project, fundamentally, this experiment has been labeled Finding Voice. And the premise of it was, how do I find my authentic voice? Coming on a camera, that sounds wild. Going live on camera, coming in front, going in front of a camera, coming in front of a camera. This is my happy face. Going live on camera is an awkward thing for human beings to do. It's not natural. I have to pretend to be speaking to someone. And that's what I was trying to become more fluent and more used to doing. But there's this other side, which isn't about finding voice. It's about making a mark in the world, actually. Everything that I'm doing here, I'm not just fucking around speaking in here because I like a following or I'm trying to get likes. I'm trying to do something in the world here. I'm absolutely trying to do something in the world. And I've been trying to do it quietly from behind some kind of veil of nobility, or I've started projects to try and help people understand the necessity of initiation and the relevance of actualization. And I've tried to explain this in a million and one ways, but we're all caught up too much in our lives to actually understand or cohere to what the hell this one guy on the internet is talking about. I'm terrible at promotion. I'm terrible at marketing. And so for all the goodwill that I'm doing, I'm kind of bleeding my soul out through my work. Hey, James. And it's not really landing in the world that my heart or my intuition tells me it ought to land. If I had to, without any arrogance, qualify what I feel is the value of my work, and this is not hyperbole. This is not confusion on my part. I think my work is amongst the most important in the world at the moment, especially considering the state of the world. What would it mean if somebody had a legitimate universal theory of everything, something that could intelligently, soberly, without any fantastical or silly claims, genuinely reconcile science and spirituality in a meaningful, intelligent way that kind of helped both deepen their own projects and clean their own projects up without diminishing anything that was most valuable or meaningful about either of those two projects? What happens if there was actually a meaning to life and somebody can articulate that, and that there is a blueprint to how there is a better way to do everything that we care about in this world, to hold relationships, to raise children, to educate each other into a kind of functional, high-functioning social coherence that doesn't have this terrible rounding error that we keep building into our societies? There are actual answers for these things. And the shit that we're talking about on the internet, the way that we're playing pinochle with anything that's worthy, including astrology or tarot or hermetics or asking questions about free will or simulation theory or a million and one other things. There's actually intelligent, salient, mature answers to all of these things. Now, if you were the holder of all those things and you saw the calamity unfolding in the world, wouldn't you just be driven to a state of frustration and anger and desperation and annoyance? That's what I am. That's where I am. I'm absolutely that thing. Because as far as I am concerned, and as far as I can tell, my work represents intelligent, meaningful answers to the most pressing questions of our time. And I can't get it over a certain waterline of everyone's attention and all the noise in the world, which is why I'm talking about all these things. And I came across something yesterday. I'm just going to read you what I wrote. So on Substack, somebody had written this little message. It said, "I'm not writing to be seen, I'm writing to see." It's lovely. It really is. It's beautiful. And if you weren't me with my set of dharmic burdens in the world and my kind of charge of what I'm supposed to be doing and the conversation I'm supposed to be leading, I didn't put that feeling inside of me. Something put that inside of me. And I can't put it down for the love of money. And this person has written, "I'm not writing to be seen, I'm writing to see." And that's so sweet. And I wrote in response, I read this today, and the thunderer in me came alive. Someone sweet and thoughtful had written, "I'm not writing to be seen, I'm writing to see." Bless her. Bless her. Hey, Darkstar. Bless her. Sister, I got to be real with you. I am absolutely writing to be seen. I'm bleeding my soul through that fucking keyboard. And it is that harsh, bitter medicine for the soul called necessity, like friar's balsam. It is an enema for the apathetic. It is a stinging salve for the raw and suppurating wound of the world. It's also the old magic of agony and prayer. I'm hoping will invoke the better angels of our natures. The desperate sparks and the lamp oil, I hope, will shine a light in the dark and point us towards the shrinking portal of our flickering destiny. Gods, I wanted to be seen. Oh, gods, I wanted to be seen. I want it emblazoned onto hearts like a flaming tar. I want it etched into the bedposts of our culture. I want to see the graffiti of it under bridges and on bus stops. I want it to sear like Sananga drops in the eye. I want the memes to endure on mugs and t-shirts. I want to catch the eye like naked breasts used to. I want to catch the eye. I want my work to catch the eye like naked breasts used to. It should capture the gaze like a sunset, set to the soundtrack of a choir of angels cranked to volume 12, if that's what it takes. It should rake crass at our cringing bitch-soft ears. The base of it should hit us in the chest. I want the curling sneer of its threat and grimace remembered every time we hear the wolf of winter and hard times howling in the closing dark. I wanted to drive its Mustang drunk right through the living room of our dull sobriety. I want the shotgun crack of it to silence the room with the awkward suddenness of a record needle scratch. I want it to land like the fattest drop. It should hit you in the mouth and rock you into presence. Good Lord, I want it to inspire us to remember why we are here, remember what is still possible, and remember that no one else is coming. So yeah, I totally want it to be seen. I totally want it to be seen. And I think if I'm objective and critical, looking from the outside in, and I'd like to hear the opinion of people like James and Darkstar, because my wife's also on the call, but she knows me. But if you are here and you've encountered me and you're looking at my work and you're trying to figure me out, have a look inside yourself and consider how you see me. What you imagine I think I am and what you imagine I'm trying to do. And I think the problem is I haven't just verbatim come out and said what I'm trying to do. And the problem is every time I open my mouth and say anything, I'm still speaking in the same language that everybody else is speaking, and I'm still speaking about some of the same things that everybody else is speaking about. So invariably, you're going to think I'm just saying what everybody else is saying. In the beginning, when I started talking, I was a lot more brazen. I just came out and said, I've got meaningful answers and you ought to listen. I didn't exactly say it like that, but that was the energy, right? There was a lot of young buck energy in me. I'm just going to read this message, read later. I'm reading it immediately. Such wisdom is very close at hand in the world. There is only one catch. Everyone would have to give up every stitch of personal and social culture in their lives are wrapped and breathe in every cell of their body. Could they, would you? Well, I did. I did. So James says that these forms of wisdom and reality, the answers are always closer than we think. But in order to embrace them, we have to let go of the illusion that we cling to, that we've been taught represents safety and meaning for us. And of course, they don't. So I realize it's a lot to drop on people just in a call in a live video like this. But I mean, this is what my live videos are for. They're for me to figure out how to say the right thing badly if necessary, but just say it. Just say it. And what we desperately need right now is a different dream, a different map of possibility for the human race. And the first reality we're going to have to face is that not everybody is equal exactly. I don't mean that some people should be treated in an unkind way, or that should be justification for dehumanizing people. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. But if you map everybody onto like a pyramid, a triangle, and you say that at the peak of that triangle, there are fewer people, because fewer people can fit in the peak of a base, in the peak of a pyramid, but that every tier of that pyramid has the same amount of will and consciousness. But at the peak, it's distributed amongst a very small amount of people, and at the base, it's distributed amongst a huge amount of people, the majority of people. Yeah? Now, the kind of ideas that I'm peddling, the kind of forethought that I'm talking about, you'll notice at the top of the pyramid, there's no huge distinction between left and right. But at the base of the pyramid, there's an enormous delta between left thinking and right thinking, between conservative and progressive, between red and blue, as the polarization of light shifts out. And first of all, people aren't aligned because we've got different religions and different takes and different stories and different cultural backgrounds and different levels of respect and understanding of science and philosophy and everything else. So we're all polarized by social media. And the lower you are down this pyramid, the less consciousness and will you have to defy those systems of control and influence. Bye, darling. You want to say hi to the people? Where are you going? It's school. That's it. I'll see you later. I don't know what happened there, but I'm going to carry on this. It's a little door. Now, put a jumper on. You're going to get cold. And this is what I mean, that not everybody is equal, because there's no ways, no matter how minded or well-intended somebody is, you can't reach down to the bottom of the pyramid and try convince people on the same merits of an argument that you can convince the people who naturally incline towards the center and towards the top. The thing is, where do you find yourself on that pyramid? And where do you find yourself on that left or right swing? You must know that our politics that we are so wrapped up in and drawn into, we must know that this is not an answer for leading humanity forward in any meaningful sense. It cannot be, because its whole project is division and finding an other to blame everything on, yeah? And an other to humanize. We're not in a progressive phase of our human arc at the moment. We're in a regressive phase, deeply regressive. And trouble is coming. Trouble is coming that we have no map for. The one thing that we need most, which is initiation, we don't even understand that we need it. Yeah. And there is a way to plot out a sensible way from here. A philosophy, a universal form of philosophy that doesn't. Let me just break for a second and read this. I believe you are practicing, you are speaking, practicing what you are speaking, because you have something important to say. This work you are doing is like practicing guitar while your friends watch it. It's the best way to get really good. Yeah. And I've had different mediums at that, Darkstar. I wish I knew your name, man. Because sometimes I was doing this way, and sometimes I'm doing it via writing, and sometimes I've gotten a class together and I've been trying to teach. But I've been testing lots of different modalities to try and make this happen. And right now I'm just testing something else. But I actually used to run a thing called the Mojo Dojo, which was about how someone starts understanding their own life and their own selves and their own journeys of actualization like you would going to a jiu-jitsu class, where you're not expected to learn something in a linear, structured way. You're doing it in a progressive, cyclic way. Yeah. But what I was talking about a minute ago, and I don't want to I don't want to lose my train of thought, and I don't want to ramble on too long, is that our projects that we're engaged in, we're in this arc of degradation and dysfunction. The two corners of the pyramid are pulling the whole pyramid down. Our argument is not getting higher, it's getting lower. And there are actual ways of doing this, but one of the key ways is initiation. This institution whereby our leaders and our elders help guide new arrivals into a collective social contract, a covenant, not with a God, but with each other. And not just with each other, but with our ancestors, so that we don't make a hash of their investments that they've handed us. And that we make a contract also with the future humans, so that we become mindful now of what we're handing down to future generations. Until we orient ourselves into that much broader human project, this idea of covenant, of actualization, of legacy, of initiation, until we do that, there's nothing that anybody says. It doesn't matter what the argument is, political, ideological, philosophical, scientific. There is no other project on earth right now more relevant than that project. Because we now have democratized technology, social media deranging us completely. We've got the ability to create nuclear fission in a university laboratory that students can do over a weekend that used to take the budget of a country years to accomplish. We can now do it in a laboratory over a weekend. We can edit gene sequences. We can print virus chains. The ability that we have to harm ourselves is way exceeds the integrated wisdom that we have to manage ourselves and to live in relationship with this godlike level of superpower that we've created for ourselves through our technology, right? So we have become our own little demigods. And what's the first thing that we created? We created this overmind called the algorithm that we are now praying to virtually. And it's a non-human entity that is controlling how we think, how we live, how we behave, how we interact with reality. It's shaping our reality. And we're ceding control to it, all the while crying about how unhappy our reality is. Now, fixing that, seeing that, addressing that, waking up to that, finding different ways to face the reality of that, to find different forms of leadership right now, to understand the necessity of legacy, of ancestors. Not in a silly spiritual staring into each other's eyes kind of way. The whole spiritual project is a juvenile project. The spiritual project that you encounter online on the internet, that's cosplay. That's children pretending to be spiritual because there's no grown-ups in the room telling them what it actually looks like. It's got nothing to do with the clothes you wear or necessarily with eagle feathers or reciting mantras or putting a hodgepodge of crap on an altar. Those things are important, but they're only important insofar as your connection with the meaning and the relevance of them and your relationship to that. Yeah, and your great so that, the why that you are coming from. And most people in the spiritual community don't really have a why. What they really mean to do is look for other people that like to dress and act and speak like them. So it's a social arrangement. And they just generally want to feel better about the shit that they've endured in their lives. And I don't begrudge people that. That healing is necessary and important. But really, we've got teenagers initiating teenagers. We've got fools with no real life experience, life coaching other fools. We're not doing well. We're not doing well. And none of this is a pathway towards meaningful recovery as a species. And what this whole prattle and what this whole rant has been about, slightly angry rant, as you can hear from that poem that I wrote, that whole rant is about, if I was my child If I was our children, if I was the next generation that was going to inherit this fucking ridiculous mess that we're going to leave through our ignorance and our apathy and our adolescence, I would be so annoyed. I'd be so disappointed. I would not be proud or grateful of the generation that we are. I would be ashamed and resentful of them. And I don't want that on my eternal conscience. I want to do the other thing. I want that generation to look back on us and go, wow, what a fucking generation that was. They turned the ship on the water, or at least they decided not to keep heading down the dark path and act like somebody else was going to come along and save them. They found their courage. They found their leadership. They remembered why we are all here as human beings. We are part of something. We are part of something. This is not a fucking accident. But we can have an accident if we fail to recognize the incredible amount of empowerment that we've been handed. We've stepped into this moment like absolute children, and guess what our test is going to be? James, we'll talk later. There's some confusion there. Our test is going to be crisis, and we're manufacturing our crisis. We're manufacturing our crisis. And the people like me who are trying to have serious, mature conversations have to wade through all of this noise and bullshit, both the noise that we carry in ourselves, that's just part of the problem that we're trying to solve for, but also the noise in the world that we're all helping to generate. We're expecting everything to arrive in kind of 15-second clips of little dopamine single-serving sachets of sugar. It can't work like that. We have to slow down. We have to deeply now invest in these necessities. Deeply invest in these necessities. So, if anything has landed through all of this, I hope you understand why I have this feeling of kind of righteous spiritual annoyance, and it's because we've got so much hanging on the line. The stakes are so high, and you know what? It's because I feel impotent. I feel a sense of despair. That anger isn't just anger because why doesn't anyone listen to me? It's because fuck, man, I don't even know if I'm saying it perfectly, but I know this is a more important conversation than any other conversation being had today. It doesn't matter if you care about saving children or animal rights or looking after the environment. Every single one of those things is only something that we get if the human race starts realizing the necessity of us collaborating and cooperating together in a meaningful, long-term thinking kind of way. Then that's the tide that raises all boats. It's not just consciousness or just an intellectual enlightenment that we need. It's a form of radical realignment that we need. Both to our place in the cosmos, the responsibility that we have as stewards of our own lives, of future generations, of the earth around us. But that doesn't come through screaming and ranting and protesting in the streets. It comes through this inner protest that needs to happen, where you suddenly realize, fuck, the storm is rising, the winter is coming, the dark night is almost here. We're in the heart of a Kali Yuga now. And we're not behaving that way. Even the brightest minds that I can think of, Sam Harris is a bright mind. Him and Douglas Murray were talking on a podcast recently, and they're commenting on the unfolding horror show of the incumbent administration and the division in America and the angriness and the dysfunction and the fucking trouble in Palestine and the trouble in Ukraine and the huge amount of human confusion around what's morally good and right. We're so fucking confused. And there's this whole ecosystem of Joe Rogans and things like that, bless them, lovely people, but they're not aware of the responsibility that they have and the way that they're helping to malinform an entire generation of human beings. Just through clumsiness. Yeah. And even these high-minded people like Douglas Murray and Sam Harris, I don't agree with everything they say, but I like the way that they talk and argue. But they are sitting there casually commenting as if they're watching somebody play a round of billiards, as if this doesn't have existential, critical consequences. And I'm just wondering, where is the fucking urgency and the concern? People in the business world. I like Adam Grant. I like him. I like his voice. I like his message. I like his ideas. But you know what bothers me? What bothers me is nobody, even great leaders like that, are not talking about the real trouble in the world. This pending doom that we're all manufacturing for ourselves. So no one is showing true leadership, not in the spiritual community, none of this 5D ascension bullshit. People trying to claw their way back into old dead religions. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of fucking losing it, but I've probably spoken on too long, but you guys get where I'm coming from. What did James say? You're angry because you want your daughter to have the best shining life. I don't just want her to have the best shining life. That is true, but I want human beings to have a better life. I want better than this, man. I want better than this, and we can do better than this. This is a fucking tragedy. Tragedy is not just when the bad thing happened, it's when the bad thing was avoidable. This is avoidable, and this is going to cause us a permanent scar on our psyche. Forever. We are shaping the human future by how we're showing up today. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fire and brimstone from me. I don't know how helpful that is to anybody, but that's my truth, man. That's my truth. Anyway, now, let me just tackle this last question. Wait. The overmind is a phantom. It is the mask of flesh, blood, human minds manipulating the world at a distance, shielded from identity, pretending no blame. Now, this is where I disagree with you. Now, there might be bad faith actors in the world, James, but the largest portion of trouble is caused by human ignorance, human complicity in systems of control and influence that we are just too distracted to rebel against, or to find the necessity inside of ourselves to behave better, to show up better, to choose differently. So we created the algorithm. We allow the internet that we have today. We allow the quality of journalism and reporting that we have today. We allow the politics that we have today. We allow the corporate culture that we have today. The people have the power, but the people are not wielding their power. The people are being manipulated through lack of initiation, through lack of agency, through lack of self-awareness, through lack of sense of accountability, of leadership, of maturity, right? And when you do that to people and you give them sport, or this new sport called politics, reality TV sport, this Super Bowl of angry frenzy about this side versus that side, and there's always two takes on everything. If you keep people engaged and outraged, and you keep them in a scarcity mentality, and you feed them a constant stream of distraction through doom scrolling and binge watching and porn, then they've got all the opiates they ever need. And then a handful of people, the bad actors, can now control this situation and manipulate all of it. And those billionaires don't even have to be evil. They can just be misaligned human beings that think that the human game generally is so small that it's all about how much I can have. And there's no such thing as enough. That degree of stupidity and ignorance is enough to explain all of the evil in the world. You don't actually have to have Illuminati rubbing their hands together in dark rooms. So I think I've gone on a bit too long, but let me see if there's anything else that I have to say. We need to talk off screen. Well, you need to book time, James. You need to book time. So you can go to my website. You can do things to find time with me. Yep. That's it, folks. Darkstar, we must all learn to define ourselves. To know one's self is the first step to enlightenment. Yeah, that's right. I don't know if you want to tell me your name there, Darkstar, but anyway, gents and my lovely wife, thank you very much for your time. I'm not going to apologize for the rant. If you stuck it out until this far, it means something had landed and you also care. And you also want to know what to do next. Now, that's what a Better Way project is all about. It's how to help the rubber hit the road. And one of the ways that I'm going to be teaching is I'm pulling together circles, initiation circles. It's not going to be dressing in robes and throwing chicken bones in the moonlight kind of initiation. It's not that. It's it's just a sensible, pragmatic forms of initiation into deeper context of understanding, both in yourself and in the world, and the symmetry between those two. Upgrading language, giving you maps and models that already exist in the world, helping you demystify these esoteric maps and models, and then taking maps and models and methodologies even from the corporate world, like Agile. Agile is the master practice. It's how we fit in all of our other practices and weave them in together into a coherent human life, a meaningful human life. And we need to be initiated into those practices. Somebody that's done it before needs to be holding space to say, this is how it is. Here's some rope. See if you can not hang yourself with this, so that you can become one of the initiators, so that you can hold space for others, so that we can widen the circle and widen the beachhead and start inviting more people in. Yeah. That's it. I've gone on way too long, I think. And yeah, that's it. Love you guys. Take care. Bye.